My name's Frank Zacarri, and this is Life Altering Events. Now, I had a radio show named Life Altering Events for 69 weeks, and we have now moved it to TV. And the first question that I was asked was, why? Why'd you do that? And I said, it's very simple. Most of us are tired and had enough of the negative and hostile talk shows and interview shows. This model's gone on for far too long, and it's far too damaging. And I felt it's time to have an interview show that focuses on positive news, a show that highlights the issues that show what we have in common are so much greater than what divides us. Now, what are these issues? Everybody has them. It's life, it's love, it's family, it's passion, and it's fulfillment. During the course of this show, I will bring you guests who will inspire, that will motivate, and they will challenge you to become the best possible version of yourself. Now, this past October 2019, I was invited to an event called the Challenge Athletes Foundation Community Weekend. And it's in San Diego. And I just moved to San Diego, and it is held at a place called the La Jolla Cove. And for those of you who have been to San Diego, you know that the La Jolla Cove is probably one of the most scenic, most beautiful areas in the world. So I went down there to see what this organization was about, see if I could get an interview for the radio show. And as I went down there, I was surprised. I saw hundreds, if not thousands, of people at the Cove participating in every kind of activity you can imagine. There were bicycle racing and foot races and weightlifting and swimming and surfing. And you name it, if there's an event, they were doing it. Stationary bike, everything you can imagine. And then as I looked and I watched, I realized a vast majority of these people are disabled. They're challenged. They have artificial limb, a leg, an arm, hand. Something had happened to them in their life, yet through this organization, they didn't quit. They never gave up, and they were competing able bodies and disabled bodies with able bodies, and they were holding their own. And this was so impressive to me. Now, I met Nico Marcolongo, who is our guest here today, and he runs a program called Operation Rebound for this foundation. Now, being a Vietnam-era veteran, I love the fact that there was something with the Challenge Athletes Foundation specifically for veterans, and then, of course, first responders, who a lot of veterans become first responders. And as I was there, I was just in absolute awe watching the interaction and the kindness and how giving so many of these people were. As I was approaching the place, I saw Bill Walton, the Hall of Fame basketball player. He was walking up the hill as I was coming down the hill. And I said hello to him, and he said, thank you for supporting this organization. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot do this justice. Nico is here with us. He's the senior manager of Operation Rebound, and it's one of many, many programs that the Challenge Athlete Foundation sponsors and supports. So Nico, welcome to Life Altering Events.
Thank you, Frank. It's good to be with you again. I appreciate the invitation.
It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. Nico, I can't do this organization justice for everything it's done. So tell the listeners around the world, what is the challenge? How did this come to be? How did this come to pass?
Well, the Challenge Athletes Foundation, it started in 1994 to help one individual, Jim McLaren. Jim, in college, he was a college football player at Yale University. He was an aspiring actor. He was on a motorcycle one day in New York City on his way to an audition. He got hit by a New York City bus.
Oh, geez.
He's pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. He was in a coma. When he came out of that coma, he discovered he was a below-the-knee amputee. He'd lost his leg in that accident. And he didn't let that deter him. He went on to become the fastest man in the world in one leg. As a matter of fact, he did the Kona Ironman World Championship in 10 hours and 42 minutes. And to put that in perspective, an able-bodied athlete's goal is to do that in about 12 hours. And here's Jim. He's 6'5", very large man, running on a prototype running foot. At this time, this was 1992, where they didn't have the advanced technologies that they do today. And he did this whole triathlon, a 2.2 mile swim, a 112 mile bike, and a 26.2 mile run in 10 hours and 42 minutes. It was an incredible feat. Well, needless to say, Jim got a lot of notoriety from that, and he got a pretty big following. And so he was doing more triathlons. And in 1993, just up the coast here in Orange County, not far from where you are, he was doing a triathlon. He was riding his bicycle, and he got hit by a van. It was a second accident. It threw him from his bike. He hit a pole, and it paralyzed him from the chest down. So from then on, he was not only an amputee, but he's also a quadriplegic. So three of his buddies, Bob Babbitt, Rick Kozlowski, and Jeffrey Essocal, who are all avid triathletes, said, we need to do something for Jim. Let's get him an adaptive van so he can have some mobility. So I said, well, what should we do? I said, well, let's have a triathlon. That's what we know. So what they did in October 29th, as a matter of fact, 1994, they held what became the first annual San Diego Triathlon Challenge. And they invited a bunch of people from the community, people who were supportive of Jim came out, and they raised $49,000, and they got Jim a van. And it just so happens that three of the participants were three ladies who were also amputees who had been inspired by Jim to get active because they saw him. They said, hey, he's an amputee. He's out there running. We can do this too. So they participated in the triathlon. And after the triathlon, they approached one of the founders and said, this is great. You did this for Jim, but did you know that insurance doesn't cover running prosthetics or sports wheelchairs? And they had no idea. Insurance looks upon these things as luxury items,
That's
not
right.
necessary. We believe sports is necessary to have a full life. So they said we had no idea. So they kept doing this triathlon to raise money for those items that people couldn't get, such as running prosthetics and sports wheelchairs and the like. And then in 1997, they incorporated as a 501c3. And since then, the organization, Challenge Athletes Foundation, has been helping people throughout the world have access to sports. And that's really what it's about, because the number one impediment for people with disabilities to participate in sports is lack of access. Whether that lack of access is some sort of a training tool or a piece of equipment or transportation, those are things that we want to break down. Because what we want to do, we don't want to just have the same an even playing field, equal playing. We want everybody on the same playing field. That's why our triathlon that we annually hold is for everybody, able-bodied and challenge athletes, and it's fully accessible for everyone.
It's incredible, ladies and gentlemen. I went there, and there are things for wheelchairs that can get, so they're able to roll onto wherever out to the water. They have everything you can possibly imagine together. And I watched one, and if you try, and if you're an able-bodied person and you try to give the disabled person a break, a challenge athlete, they will jump in your face in a heartbeat. They want, no, we're going to compete on an equal level. And I've heard one of them say, and I'm going to beat you. It's incredible, folks. Now, Nico, so many of our veterans and first responders, they come home and they're physically, they're mentally, emotionally, spiritually, they're broken. And I've spent some time with your program, and this gives hope. It gives them hope. Share with listeners some of these stories, because they're just going to break your hearts, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure. So a little background on that. So Operation Rebound is a program at the Challenge Athletes Foundation that's set up specifically for active duty military, veterans, and first responders, police, fire, and paramedics. The way I got involved, it kind of goes back to the founding of this. While I was in the Marine Corps, to my own charitable efforts, I established a fund at the Challenge Athletes Foundation for injured vets and first responders that morphed into Operation Rebound. So I had unwittingly created a job for myself 5 years before I got out of the Marine Corps. So what we do with Operation Rebound, which is unique within the Challenge Athletes Foundation, is we have a year-round grant program. So a veteran or a first responder can apply for a grant anytime during the year for equipment, competition, or training expenses, or all of the above, if that's what they need within our financial limitations. And we empower them to participate in the sport that they want to at the time and place of their own choosing. And that's what's key, the independence aspect. Because I'll tell you that, as you mentioned, feeling broken, when there's a veteran out there and they're 1 minute they're leading soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines in a battle space, and then in a millisecond, they lose their limbs, they are blinded, they're paralyzed, they're taken away from that team, they're put into a hospital bed, they can't even go to the bathroom on their own. They're thinking, where's my value anymore? What purpose do I have? So we let them know they're going to do all the things they used to do and things they never dreamed of doing, that they do have value. And it's key, if you can, to get people early so they don't get a broken mentality. Okay, I'm missing my limbs, I'm blind, I'm paralyzed, what have you, I have a severe traumatic brain injury, I'm not good anymore. Well, you may not, and in some cases they still do, go out and continue to serve as the amputees, for example. And some may not be able to serve in the same capacity, but they can do many other things. And they often take up a sport that they never dreamed that they would ever do, such as triathlon, for example. Or somebody like you met, our World War II veteran, Albert Bucarelli, 96 years old, who comes out to our triathlon and gets on a spin bike. He's out there spinning away in the heat of California. And he's having a great time. And he's also setting that example for others, because that's what's important, especially with our older veterans coming to events and meeting the younger veterans. So our younger veterans realize, hey, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, I'm going to be okay as long as I take care of myself. And that's what it's about. It's about self-care, independence. But we're right there with them, providing the resources so they can go out and do these things safely and independently, but know that they have an entire team behind them, backing them every step of the way.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, Nico mentioned Albert, and he was the first person I met. 94, 90, he's 95 now, maybe, on a spin bike on stage, keeping up with a number of the people. And it was a big crowd, and they're all cheering him and the whole thing. When he got done and he came down, he talked to me, and I got his story. And then he went over and sat down with his wife. I can't tell you how many people came by to say hello to him, to say, thank you. How much you inspire me. You're in your 90s, and some of these people are young vets. They're in their 20s, and some of them aren't even vets. They're just young kids, children of veterans or children of first responders. And they made their way over to him to say, if you can do this at 94, 95, I can do this, and I can still make something of my life, and it's not the end of the world. And the encouragement is just so amazing. Now, you've had so many amazing stories with children that just were incredible. Share some of those.
Sure. And I just wanted to note, when we talk about inspiration, when people use that term, it doesn't mean so much, I'm inspired because I never thought you could do that because you're older or you're missing your limbs. It's more, wow, I'm inspired by your actions to take action.
Exactly.
And do something myself. Exactly. And that's really what the organization is all about. There's so many people out there who don't believe in themselves, regardless if they have all their limbs, and when they see our challenge athletes out there doing something and not viewing their injury as a life-limiting disability, but rather a challenge to overcome, then they can look at themselves and go, what challenges do I have that are potentially holding me back? And then they take action. And that's what's truly inspiring about our challenge athletes. And I tell you, nothing's more inspiring than our kids who are out there. We have a lot of kids who, for them, a lot of them were born, say, without a limb or with spina bifida, so they require the use of a wheelchair. And they don't know any better, or any different, I should say, not better, but different. Right. And unlike, say, when I was younger, where a child maybe was missing a limb or in a wheelchair, was that wasn't the norm. That was like, whoa, what's going on here? Today, there's a lot more acceptance, a lot more, hey, this is the way life is. And so these kids are able to come out here and feel much more comfortable in their own skin, particularly when they meet other people who are in a similar circumstance. They realize they're not alone. And with the efforts, like what we've been doing, really a lot of advocacy through the Challenge Athletes Foundation, promoting people to go out and maximize their abilities, their capabilities, showing them that regardless of what trauma you may have experienced or what life circumstances you've gone through, you can still excel in life. That is what is kind of normalizing, if you will, or bringing justice to our challenge athletes. You know, you think about the Americans with Disability Act. We're celebrating that now 30 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before the Americans with Disability Act, it was very difficult for people, particularly in wheelchairs, to get around.
That's right.
You know, they going over curves, what have you. There weren't any ramps. It was just stairs. So by de facto, we were treating them as second-class citizens because we weren't giving them access, right? Equal access under the law. When the Americans with Disability Act passed, and now you see a lot of these curbs that have little ramps on them, and most every business has a wheelchair ramp that goes up. It's automatic now that people have access. So now you start treating people the same level, equals. And that's what we're trying to do at the Challenge Athletes Foundation. We look at people as equals. People have equal value, equal worth, and they need to have equal opportunity to excel. And we use sports as a vehicle to help people excel in life. So we have a number. Anthony Smith, I believe you met Anthony. Anthony took a rocket-propelled grenade through the hip in Iraq, got shot 4 times in the chest, got his teeth knocked out, blind in one arm, got his arm blown off. He was put in a body bag because they thought he was dead. They went to identify the bodies. They unzipped his bag. They saw a blood bubble coming out of his emergency tracheotomy. He said, okay, he's still alive. He's in a coma for 62 days. When I met him, he was inwardly focused, mad at the world. He was in an automatic wheelchair. He was smoking cigarettes. He's about 310 pounds. I said, this is somebody we need to reach out to and at least let him know that we're here for him to help him. So we got him a bicycle, and he rode that bike. And then he got involved in martial arts. It's something that he had done previous to his injury. And so we paid for his martial arts certifications and trainings and so forth. And today he's lost over 100 pounds. He runs his own martial arts studio in Arkansas where he's teaching at-risk kids. He does triathlons. We got him another bike because the seat post finally broke after 10 years. Like that we got him. He's out there giving talks. He's out there in the community. He's bringing in people who normally we would not be able to reach necessarily from San Diego, bringing them into our CF family. And so we're more inclusive and we're better off because of Anthony. So we invested in him. Now, Anthony, rather than being a burden on the medical system, which he could have very easily done, took his disability rating, sat on the couch, and it would have cost more and more and more to care for him. Now he's empowered. He doesn't go to the hospital nearly as much. His med list went from like 15 medications down to 3, and he's giving back. So he is empowered. That's what we're doing at the Challenge Athletes Foundation. We're empowering individuals so they could lead healthy, active, productive lives, and we do it through sports. And that sport can be anything, anywhere from acrobatic plane flying, which we have a firefighter in Texas who we bought a wing and an engine for his acrobatic plane, to Zumba dancing. I've got a veteran in Puerto Rico who had some severe traumatic brain injuries, and he found through Zumba dancing, he'd get his coordination back, and then we paid for his certification. So now he's a Zumba instructor. So now he can get a livelihood from doing what he loves.
It's amazing. There's so many of these stories, ladies and gentlemen. We have a world-class surfer who had lost her arm. Went to Challenge Athletes. She's back. We had a world-class swimmer in the Paralympics. These people are like the angels that we all hear about that come down to earth. One of the things you had, Nico, which COVID pretty much took away this year, is called the Buddy Bowl. It's usually Thanksgiving weekend that you allowed me to participate in last year. Tell the listeners about what that is and how big it is.
Yeah, so the Buddy Bowl itself, it was a big football tournament that started in 1977 here in San Diego, California, on the beach. High school graduates, they went away to college in the fall of 77. They came back at Christmas time. They said, let's have a reunion. But what should we do? Well, let's play football. We all love playing football. So they went out the night before, picked teams, had a party, and then played football all day. Well, over time, they went from tackle football to touch football to flag. They started inviting little brothers, friends of little brothers. I started playing in the early 1990s. Then when they all thought they're too old to keep it going, I took it over. And then in 1999, we had a helicopter crash. It killed 6 Marines and Navy corpsmen, 4 of whom were from my unit. So I passed a can around that December, and I said, from now on, it's football for charity. We raised $550 for the widows and orphans of that incident. And then we said, we're going to keep raising money for worthy causes. Eventually, I linked up with the Challenge Athletes Foundation in 2003, established the fund, and here I am now working at CAF. So Buddy Bowl's been on hold for this year, unfortunately. We're in a few states now. We're in Maryland, Annapolis, Maryland, Massachusetts, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But hey, the pandemic came, and really, again, that was just another vehicle so our Challenge athletes could get out and play football with able-bodied people as well. So it's all inclusive. We even have a wheelchair bracket. We plan on getting back in action again in 2021. If you want to check out Buddy Bowl, you want to come to your community, check out buddybowl.org, and we can look to bring it to you.
How's the pandemic impacted you? Because you're someone, and your organization is someone that's not going to stop regardless of what the barrier is. How's it impacted you?
That's right. So, as far as an organization as a whole, we haven't been able to have our in-person events, but what we do is we adapt. And so this year we had, in lieu of our San Diego Triathlon Challenge, we had what was called the CAF Community Challenge. And it was a virtual event that lasted for about 2 months. And it was individual effort. So people in their hometowns are going out and riding their bikes or running or swimming or playing basketball or whatever sport they wanted to do. And they were raising money. And then we raised $2.5 million for Challenge athletes. So now we're thinking, hey, this is going to be a tough year this year, but it looks like we're going to be able to help a lot of people. And also what we learned from that is we didn't have nearly the expenses that we normally have from a large in-person event. So in some ways, I think this is going to be a good model for the future where we're going to be more inclusive because we're going to be able to reach people who aren't necessarily able to come to us, include them in our events, and also have maybe a more modest in-person event, raise a lot more money, and help a lot more people. And so for me, my program does not depend on a time, a place, a geographic location, a season. It's really about asking the veteran or first responder, what do you want to do? And we'll empower you to do it. So we've been buying a lot of, say, bike trainers so our vets can cycle at home, during the pandemic. Spin bikes, not as much travel. There's travel's coming back in some parts of the country. A lot of training, we have a workout 3 days a week with our fitness partner, Gut Check Fitness. And they do a 50-minute crushing workout that our Challenge athletes come in on. One of our vets in New York participates every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He loves it. He's getting in great shape. So we have a lot of offerings that we're doing where our vets and first responders and our Challenge athletes writ large can participate in. They do it independently. And we emphasize that being independence does not mean alone. They have an entire team right here behind them. So just like when they're out there running those races on their own, they knew they had an entire team behind them they could reach back to, they get support from, they can connect with. So that's what we're doing. That's how we're powering through this. And it really hasn't adversely affected our operations as far as support at all.
The people that I met from the Buddy Bowl and have talked with and stayed in touch with are even more committed now because we couldn't do it, that they're more committed that it is going to happen, it's going to be bigger. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not 20 guys playing a flag football game on the beach at Camp Pendleton. This was maybe 200 plus, Nico.
Big tournament. Absolutely. It's a great time. It's always a great time. And it's really about bringing people together, connecting them, doing something fun for a worthy cause.
Yep. And we had young girls, young boys, all age groups. It was incredible. It was just incredible. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want us to see our first responders and our veterans and young children who have had something incredibly unfortunate happen to them, and they don't want your pity and they don't want your money. They want to live a life as naturally as they possibly can. And this is the organization that you need to support. And this is the organization that I strongly encourage you to get in touch with. They're in San Diego, California, one of those beautiful places in the world. Come down. Their building is open. I've been there several times. They even do, ladies and gentlemen, they'll even put on plays for people to come in, and it touches on things like PTSD and challenges that veterans and first responders are facing, and they're very well done. We had someone from the theater arts, drama arts at one of the state universities is involved in putting that together, along with Nico.
Well, Frank, our center really is a community center, and obviously those things are on hold right now, but the whole idea is that be used by the community to come in, use our space, hold a meeting there, hold a play there, those types of things, and learn about the organization that way. Because, again, that's all part of making it an inclusive community. And that's what we want. People with disabilities have the same rights as everybody else. But human nature doesn't change, right? And so it's real easy for people to get a mindset of, if something's different than me or my perception, I might be standoffish. We want to break all those things down. So we really encourage people to get involved with the Challenge Athletes Foundation, learn about us, challengedathletes.org, learn specifically about the Operation Rebound program at operationrebound.org. Take a look and see what we're doing. We're empowering people through sports to lead happy, active, productive lives. And I want to thank you again for having me on today.
It was my pleasure again, Nico. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been there. I've been there when veterans have come in, and you will not find a more positive environment. And if somebody is feeling down, as I was there one time, and he was a little depressed, and everybody else rallies around him. And having been in the military, being a veteran, and being a first responder, this is the way life is. You're part of a unit, and now you're part of Operation Rebound, and you're part of Challenge Athletes. So as I said, once again, we're just about out of time, ladies and gentlemen. Nico, thank you again. You're the best. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, no matter what happens, no matter what life throws at you, and it will throw stuff at you, please do three things. Look up, get up, never ever give up. Pick up the pieces and start moving forward. Better times and better people will enter your life. If you want more information, Nico's giving you a bunch of how to get a hold of him, or get a hold of me, and I'll make sure he gets it. They're 20 minutes from my house. You can see this show on ROKU TV, on Life Altering Event channel, or you can see it on my YouTube channel, which I think is now called Life Altering Events Frank Zacarri. And I will also send a link to Nico, and he'll put it up on all the places that they post to. And let me leave you with this, as I do every week, ladies and gentlemen. None of us are in this alone. And the secret to walking on water is to know where the rocks are. And today, Nico showed us where many of those rocks are. Join me again next week. We'll look at another life-altering event. Thank you.